Hello everyone, and welcome to a very different video. Today I'm going to be exposing some of the truths behind my cosplays. This is a video that I've wanted to do for a while. For 2020, one thing I really want to focus on all my social media and my channel is cause positivity, body positivity, general positivity. So today I am going to be exposing some of the truths behind my cosplays and my cosplay photos. What does that exactly mean? Well, I'll be diving into that, but before I do, we actually have a sponsor for today's video, which is incredibly exciting. Today's video is sponsored by Inkyard Press to talk about one of their newest releases, which is Don't Read the Comments by Eric Smith. This book actually just came out about a week ago, so it's super new, super exciting, and it's a book that I'm really excited exists for obvious reasons. It follows the story of a young woman named Divya who goes by Div Online, who is a popular streamer who's best known for streaming a sci-fi game, whose real world equivalent I would probably say is No Man's Sky, and it focuses on basically her experience in her life as an online personality, but not just the kind of, fun positive side of it, but the negative and very real issues that come along with it, namely bullying and kind of what goes on beneath the surface, which is something that I actually was talking a little bit about on my Instagram story a few weeks ago. So it's a really important conversation I think to have, and it's really awesome that there is now a piece of literature that covers that. Being an online personality is still a very kind of new occupation, so it's really cool that that's finally kind of made it into the literature world. So a really awesome book. And another really big thing that I was very thrilled about in regards to this book is the fact that our main character is a woman of color. Super important, super exciting. This is what I've obviously been reading for the past month or so. So a huge thank you to Inkyard for sponsoring today's video. If you are interested in checking it out, I will have all the relevant links down in the description. So on the topic of diving kind of below the surface, kind of uncovering the truth and the struggles behind a seemingly idealized exterior. Good segue, maybe? I don't know. Today I'm going to be exposing some of the truths behind my cosplays and cosplay photos. What does that exactly mean? Like I said, this is a video that I've wanted to do for a little while because I've noticed that, certainly for me, whenever I do a cosplay, there are certain things that I'm like insecure about, whether it's parts of the cosplay, parts of my body, or whatever. And obviously when you're wearing ridiculous things like wigs and heels and body paint or what have you, you're obviously going to be uncomfortable. But it's really easy to look at other people's photos and see them looking, flawless and amazing, and thinking like, oh man, like they look super comfortable in their cosplay. They must not be like in any pain wearing their cosplay. They must be like 100% comfortable with everything that's happening with their cosplay. And so the fact that I'm feeling these things is not normal, or I'm somehow cosplaying wrong. And then I have to stop myself. It was kind of a recent revelation. I was like, wait, they're going through the exact same things that you're going through. Obviously, just no one's talking about it, which I'm not saying anybody, like, obviously you don't want to post a photo of an outfit that you're really proud of, and you don't want to like dwell on like, wow, my back was killing me throughout the time that I was wearing this pair of wings that I made. You don't want to dwell on the negative. You want to remember the positive parts about it, because every cosplay and every like creation in general, you're gonna have positives and negatives with it. I'm not trying to be like, cosplay is painful and we're all gonna screw up. That's not the point of the video at all. Whatsoever. It's cosplay is mostly great, but there are some times when things aren't great, and that is normal because we are human and humans are flawed, and that's all right. For example, if you have like something with a cosplay that isn't 100% perfect, you're not gonna say to the photographer like, hey, I really want to capture this zipper that I sewed really badly into this cosplay. If you could just like, make sure that that's like the focal point. Obviously, no, you want to focus on all the positive parts of the cosplay. You want to have like a positive memory of that outfit. So basically, I came to the realization that people probably have the same sort of thought process when it comes to my work. I want to go through a bunch of cosplay photos of mine and talk about some of my insecurities with the cosplays, some of the things that like physically hurt about wearing the cosplay, to show that like, just because you see people in photos and everything looks absolutely perfect, we're all real people underneath. We all have insecurities and flaws, and that's okay. Nobody's gonna wear body paint and be like, wow, this is like super comfortable. I love this so much, right? Nobody feels that way, right? But it's easy to kind of look at people's photos and be like, wow, they're smiling in that photo. They must love wearing body paint. That's not how it works. I basically want to normalize and promote the notion that having flaws in your cosplay, being self-conscious about certain parts of your cosplay, and being physically uncomfortable is totally normal. Obviously, you should try and make your cosplays as comfortable to wear as possible, but like I said, when you're doing stuff like body paint or you're wearing like a pair of wings, you can only do so much. It's totally normal to feel that way because you have a pair of wings on your back. Like you're obviously gonna be uncomfortable and you're not alone in that. So I'm gonna be going through some of my cosplay photos. We're gonna talk about them and I'm gonna tell you guys some of the truths. Okay, so right off the bat, we have one of my most recent cosplays, which is the one that I'm most excited about, and that is Charlie. And I put a lot of work into Charlie. I love her to pieces. This was a very exciting cosplay for me to do. But I want to talk about this photo shoot because it might not seem like it, but I was very body conscious when we were doing this photo shoot. And again, that is normal. That is a thing that a lot of cosplayers experience. So we don't talk about it. So this was the first time that I was properly doing a shoot of this cosplay. Another thing is when you're first shooting a certain cosplay, it is totally normal to feel uncomfortable and it's totally normal to be like self-conscious because it's a look that you aren't super used to. And before that, I was taking selfies as Charlie, right? So I can see what I look like in my phone, but when you're standing in front of a photographer, it's very different. And so it takes a little while to feel super comfortable and kind of understand how to pose and how to feel in that cosplay. This was also the second time I was ever wearing this cosplay like altogether. So basically, I'm very self-conscious of my stomach. I feel like my stomach looks very round and I have very wide hips. I'm very self-conscious about how not flat my stomach is. And the pants that I wear for Charlie, they are not as high-waisted as I would like them to be. So they kind of cut like right below the belly button, but they don't go over the belly button. So when I was wearing this, I was very self-conscious about how I looked because I felt like how the jacket flares out at the bottom combined with where my pants cut me on my body accentuated how round my stomach looks. I was so tense and so uncomfortable. And so I had to stop and I had to be like, look, this is how I'm feeling. I'm really self-conscious about how big I look basically and how like unflattering this probably looks. And like everyone in the room, I had like all my roommates there. And basically they were all like, you cannot tell. Don't worry, you look great. And obviously they are cosplayers too. They understand these insecurities. So I knew that they would be totally honest with me about that. So after that, I eventually kind of like warmed up and we looked at some of the photos and my roommate, like who was taking the photos, reassured me that I looked fine. And then throughout kind of like the second half of the shoot, I felt a lot more calm. But I cannot tell you how tense and how uncomfortable I felt during the first part of that shoot. So you look at the photos and you're like, oh man, she looks like she's having a great time, but it took a long time to kind of get to that point. Meg, one of my most worn cosplays. A lot of people ask me about the wig. What is the wig like? The wig is in fact a pain. This was my first time ever doing like a really heavy wig like that. And the effect that that weight of a wig has on your head, a lot of people don't talk about it, but it is quite crazy. The second time I wore it at Emerald City Comic Con, everything felt great. It wasn't pulling on any of my hair. However, when you have that kind of weight on your head, it spaces you out. Like your head, like you just feel spaced out. It's like you aren't totally there because you have this huge weight on your head. Overall, it was fine, but there were certain points where I would just be like super spaced out. But I really want to talk about the third time that I wore her, which was to SakuraCon. And for most of the day I was fine. And then it got to the point where the ponytail was fastened was like pulling on some of my hair. And no matter how much I readjusted it, it just kept pulling on that one part. And it got to the point where it hurt so bad that I was basically on the verge of tears. Like I was basically holding back tears because it hurt so bad. And that was the point where I was just like, okay, we're done. I'm taking the ponytail off. First of all, really important to know your limits like that. If you have anything that's hurting yourself on your cosplay, don't worry about how you look. At that point, I was like, it does not matter. We're done taking photos. I don't care if anybody asks me for photos. That ponytail is coming off because I am crying right now because it hurts so badly. So first of all, do that. Always prioritize you not crying from pain over making sure that you look great for the rest of the day. Daisy, really want to talk about Daisy because again, the body confidence thing. This was actually a very positive experience, but a lot of people will like look at that and be like, oh, she's wearing a skin tight suit. She must be really confident in like how her body looks. No, I really want to do these cosplays, but I kind of didn't take into consideration the fact that I'd be wearing like a skin tight outfit that would really accentuate my waist and also my stomach. It ended up being a really good experience. I mean, in all the photos, I am like sucking in. That made me feel more comfortable getting photos taken as if I just made sure that I like sucked in a lot, but I'm really happy with how I looked. And another thing that made me really happy was actually finding one of the references, one of like the game models of Daisy in that outfit from Mario Kart Wii. She has a thicker waist and I was very happy about that. So I was like, you know what? It's canon. So it was actually a very good experience, but it took a little while to get there. Swap AU Meg, let me tell you. So this was the only cosplay that I crunched last year, con crunched, which basically means that you have a very narrow window of time to make a cosplay, so you speed make it, basically. This was a horrible decision. This cosplay, I mean, I basically had like 4 days to make it because last year I had like 6 conventions back to back and I didn't properly consider that. I had already made the plan to do this group with my friends, and it just went so wrong. It went so wrong. This is the only photo where it looks good, and it's because I'm in that pose, and it makes the cosplay look really nice. When I'm standing up, it looks like a disaster. The shape of the dress doesn't look right, the skirt is too long, and that wig. I had not had time to detangle it since I had last worn it during that con season. I was up super late the night before. Actually, my friends had to help me finish making the cosplay. The wig, I kind of had to half-ass detangle it. It wasn't great. That morning I was having a disaster with my makeup where my eyeliner kept bleeding everywhere, so I was really upset about that. The wig is just so flat, you can tell it's not properly styled. It looks good in that one photo because I'm in the right kind of pose and it looks all really nice, but that cosplay was a disaster. I definitely plan on obviously fixing it and wearing it again. But it was so bad, and we were all so exhausted that day, and everyone had ended up doing their cosplays last minute because none of us had enough time to do anything. We were so tired, we didn't have a great day that day just because we were so exhausted. It might look good in that one photo, but trust me, there is such a disaster of a story behind that cosplay, and it does not look nearly as good as that photo makes it out to be. So if you have a cosplay like that, you are absolutely not alone. Spidergwen has also been another huge fight for body confidence. Van Isle Con as her. I was in the process of my period. So when you get on your period, you're bloated. So my stomach was bigger than normal. Really unfortunate timing. So all throughout that day, I was very self-conscious about how I looked. So many of the photos that you see from that, I'm either sucking in a whole lot or they're cut from the waist up so that you don't see my stomach. Another thing about Meg, the first time I wore her, it has that lace at the very bottom. That you can kind of see it in this photo. First of all, the concrete absolutely destroyed. It peeled so badly, as you can kind of see. But the other thing is, it was fall, so there were leaves everywhere. And that skirt, that underskirt, picked up so many leaves and twigs. Leaves and twigs just stuck to it so easily. So at the end of the day, I actually had to pick off all of these leaves. I had a whole forest down there. This happens when you test drive a cosplay, right? You don't think about that stuff. You don't look at that fabric and think this is gonna pick up a bunch of leaves, but this happens. When you're wearing a cosplay for the first time, unexpected things like that happen, and that's very common, and then you can fix it for the next time. That's kind of all I'm gonna go over for today. These are very common things to feel, and I hope that by talking about that, we can reassure one another and we can become confident in ourselves and more confident in our work, and just understand that hey, I wore this and I felt this way, and that's all right, because that's part of being human. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that this was beneficial for you. And once again, I want to give a huge thank you to Inkyard Press for sponsoring today's video. I greatly appreciate it. If you guys want to check out Don't Read the Comments, I will have all the relevant links down in the description. So yeah, anyway, thank you guys so much. I will see you guys all next time, but until then, Panda Faces, please be sure to take care. Bye.